So the combination of emptying out and super segregation by race and income make it, to me, both a socially and a visually unappealing place. I know people think it's edgy and cool, and that's because their hair isn't the same color as mine, and that's a good thing, but this kind of poverty isn't cool. It just isn't. And I do see hopeful signs, and I think that's very encouraging, but there is a lot of work left to do.
Everyone else can unscrew them, and we will. Can one person be in charge of keeping this pot almost?
And the point isn't really to give you a full, in-depth lesson. The point is to introduce you to concepts and then let you analyze them on your own and think further on it. And then when we come back, you can elaborate on what you learned and like your thought process after you went home. We have to get our children, who will be adults one day, to say, well, why is this like this? You know, there's some people that live in a neighborhood that's a few houses on it, it may be torn down or raggedy, and you think that's right. But if you never are taught to question things like that, why does my neighborhood look like this? Why aren't the street lights on? Why does a few blocks away seem to have everything they need? Why is Midtown looking like amazing and I'm still waiting for garbage, to get picked up, and it still may never get picked up. So asking these questions and encouraging the youth to be free thinkers, whether they're from the suburbs or whether you're from the inner city. We've all just been taught that things are the way they are, and so I'm trying to break that mold.
Many suburbanites have, at this point, very little experience of the city and remain frightened of it. And that's partly due to the nightly news that comes on, and everything is about crime and fires, pretty much. But it also is about the fact that there was a period when Detroit had the highest murder rate in the country. And the fact that most violent crimes happen between people who know each other, which means that the average suburban theater goer has very little to fear when they come down to go to the symphony or to the Fisher or to see a ball game, doesn't register with people. I think African Americans are bitter. I think they are bitter over a lot of things. Most African American students who are from this region have somebody in their family who was around when Paradise Valley and Black Bottom were demolished. And they remember that. I've met many people, including people on the staff here, who were little kids who saw the tanks come down the streets. They remember, and they should. And I don't think a lot of white people get that.
It's especially hard to explain it to someone that doesn't speak English as their first language, or maybe at all. So it was like, you can point to the green. I've got some cold ready for you over here. Want them, so it's like dummy proof. All you do is just like, oh, green, I'm planting on like the green.
We're doing the same task. There's no class level. You know what I mean? You don't need a race to, or an ethnicity to pick up a rake, And when you engage in activities that everyone's on the same plane, it gives you the opportunity to actually just let your guard down and get to know each other. And so I think that's a really big thing that, well, kind of small thing that's had big successes, you know, for us regarding like bridging gaps and such.
If the environmental movement is going to have big impact locally, more pulling together is probably going to have to take place. At the moment, it seemed to me to be fragmented. My perception is that the mayor is very concerned with building up the economy, getting some clear progress in neighborhoods other than Midtown and downtown, and getting basic services improved from the perspective of residents across the city. And I don't quarrel with those priorities. I think those things are important things to do. And if I were mayor, I would hope I would be smart enough to be paying attention to those things. But it does mean that, as has often been the case in the past, that environment is not at the top of the list.
If we can teach someone from childhood to respect nature, to respect their place in nature, and be able to connect everything together and in the system, I feel like people would, we would have a better environment in a sense, because it's something that we learned and we grew up with, as opposed to something you learned about in college or high school, and after you didn't have a care about the environment, now it's supposed to click in. I think that, you know, we're working backwards. And so if we can just get a basic awareness and respect for nature from the youth, I think we'll fare better.